Hello everyone and welcome to Stitch Check, the show where we talk about Star Trek costumes, which ones to buy, how to make them, and today we are going to be making something from the episode, Season 1 of the original series, The Enemy Within. Now, I thought about making this one, but did y'all see that alien dog? So, instead today, I decided that I would like to make a prop. I'm going to construct a puppet version of this creature. And then I'm going to recreate this scene. And that is our mission for this day. But before we begin, two things. As I stated before in my previous episode, I will be posting some of the costumes that I've acquired through my own purchases and Deanna's and things I've made on my Poshmark account, which is this. So today's two items are this original series engineering uniform and this next generation command gold uniform. The first one is a Cossermart, but this one is a Rubies. They will be, of course, a fraction of the price you pay for buying them new, because they were used once, maybe twice. And with things currently the way they are, and all of these Star Trek uniforms being made overseas, who knows what the prices will be soon. But we're not here for politics. This is an escape. This is where we come to forget about our modern day woes and focus on the future that is Star Trek. So if you would like to acquire these, please visit my Poshmark account. There are obviously normal everyday clothing items there. My mom tends to hand me down things, and if I don't feel like keeping them, I'll post them there for sale. Any money I make off of the sale of these costumes goes straight back into buying fabric to make more costumes for this show to show you how to do it, so you can join the circle of Star Trek creativity. One more thing. I asked last episode if you would like to see me try to make, from scratch, some prosthetics, either a Klingon forehead or Vulcan/Romulan ears. And it seems that ears are the way to go. I will, of course, make the forehead eventually, but I've never done this before, so this is a whole new venture for me. I have an entire box of supplies ready to go, so I can't wait to try to figure this out. And especially after putting these ears on today, my mirror is so dirty. I love these caps, I really do. And I'm grateful for the person that created these. And you can buy them here if you're still interested. I talk about these caps every time that I put on this makeup. I'm like, these caps are great. And I think they look a lot better than the full ear ones that you can buy, which are kind of like, the quality's questionable. But there's just this gap I can never quite get, and it's hard to hide the seams, and I just want that full-sized over the ear, blends in perfectly, right? Blends in perfectly set of ears. So let's play around and find out if we can make that happen. But without further ado, here is how I figured out how to make the alien dog from The Enemy Within in puppet form. Let's do it. While you watch me piece together this puppet, which I feel like is mostly self-explanatory just with the visuals, I've decided I'll tell you the rundown of this episode and my thoughts about it. This episode, The Enemy Within, opens with part of the crew on the planet. They're investigating the flora and fauna there and have found an interesting dog-like creature, which is what you're watching me make now. A comment during this scene warns that this planet gets very, very cold at night. But wait, someone's injured his hand. And he is told to get back to the ship and make his way to sickbay. But upon beaming up, there's a strange malfunction with the transporter. Something Scotty refers to as burnout. Kirk then requests to be beamed up, and Scotty obliges. Kirk, upon returning to the ship, however, seems a little dizzy, and Scotty walks him out of the room. Just after they leave, another Captain Kirk beams onto the pad, a mischievous look in his eyes. In a moment just after this, Scotty's encouraging Kirk to please make his way to sickbay, upon which Kirk says, "All right, engineer, I'll have my engines looked at." While who we can presume is good Kirk goes for a quick nap, bad Kirk shows up in sickbay. At this moment, only we, the viewers, know there are two of them, and know that one might be more untrustworthy than the other. The Kirk in sickbay is seeking Saurian brandy and demands it from Bones. But Dr. McCoy is instantly on alert, seeing a definite problem with Kirk's attitude. However, bad Kirk makes his way out of sickbay and into some private quarters. Spock goes to Kirk's quarters, where he meets with good Kirk. He says he's been sent to check on him by Dr. McCoy. Kirk doesn't seem to know anything about the Saurian brandy incident, and Spock leaves. Good Kirk is then in engineering, and Scotty is showing him what happened when they tried to beam the alien dog up. It split in two. One with a pleasing disposition, and the other seems very aggressive. They reason that it is not safe to transport up the rest of the crew from the surface of the planet. Meanwhile, bad Kirk is in Yeoman Rand's quarters. He attacks her, and she fights him off, scratching his face. A crewman, Fisher, sees them, and she shouts to get Mr. Spock. Bad Kirk makes a getaway. Good Kirk is confronted about this attack and the brandy incident, but doesn't know what anyone's talking about. But now he's on a mission to get to the bottom of it. He talks to Rand, who doesn't trust Kirk anymore. She mentions that she had scratched his face, but Kirk has no scratches. Fisher shows up and verifies Rand's story. And that's when Kirk realizes that what happened to the alien dog must have happened to him too. Scotty thinks a powdery ore on the injured crewman's uniform may have caused the malfunction before Kirk was beamed up. This also means they still can't beam up the crew, and it's getting colder on the planet below. Kirk talks to Spock about telling everyone what's going on. And Spock reminds him that he mustn't show weakness and risk losing the confidence of the crew in such a time of crisis. Kirk notices that he's lost his edge. He makes an announcement to keep an eye out for an imposter of himself, and to follow Spock's orders from now on. Bad Kirk hears this announcement over the intercoms and has a meltdown, yelling, "I'm Captain Kirk," over and over. I delight in this scene. The 120% that William Shatner put into this moment. Just after this meltdown, the bad Captain Kirk finds himself some quality foundation to hide the scratches. As he makes his way out the door, he finds crewman Wilson and orders him to give him his phaser before knocking Wilson out. Good Kirk checks on the crew on the planet, and things, of course, are getting even worse. Good Kirk also gets word that bad Kirk is now armed. Spock and Good Kirk need to predict his next move. They figure he'd hide in the lower levels, because that's what Good Kirk would do. In the next scene, they are down there, searching. Then there's a face-off. Good Kirk tries to talk Bad Kirk into giving himself up. But then Bad Kirk is stunned by a Vulcan neck pinch and brought up to sickbay. The doctor advises that they put the two halves of the captain back together, but Spock wonders if they should instead make a study of the separate halves. He, however, knows that if the captain were to stay separate, his leadership would suffer. Scotty warns that the situation on the planet is worse. A scene on the planet has Sulu asking for hot coffee lowered by a rope, or rice wine. And the way that Sulu is trying to keep everyone's spirits up is so sweet in this moment, when everyone is obviously so terribly uncomfortable. I really like this. The four of them are all huddled together with their futuristic blankets shivering in the wind. And just him saying, "Oh, a little hot coffee. You could lower it down by rope, right?" is just so charming. It's just so sweet in the face of such adversity. We're, however, told that Scotty thinks fixing the transporter will take quite some time. Back on the planet, Sulu heats a bunch of rocks with a phaser and calls the ship again. He tells them he's already used up one phaser, just heating stones. He only has a few left. Meanwhile, Badkirk is suffering some sort of fit. The duplication caused weakening that's slowly killing him. Coming in contact with Good Kirk, as Kirk holds Kirk's hand, stabilizes him temporarily. And Good Kirk realizes that he needs to be reunited with his darker half. And that being a bit of both, good and bad, is what makes us human. With the help of a pep talk from Bones, Spock calls. They may have found a fix for the transporter. They're going to test it on the alien dog. As they do so, the looks of worry on everyone's faces are priceless. The tension they build in this moment is really good, and they make you wait just a smidge too long for it to be comfortable, and I love it. The dog died. It was a failure. During a talk with the doctor, Spock reasoned that the shock and fear may have been what killed it. Good Kirk is wishy-washy about what to do. Spock tried to tell him to use his intellect to override his weaknesses. Spock goes to the transporter room, and Bones leaves for the autopsy of the dog. Alone, Kirk calls Sulu again. Sulu and his crew are near freezing to death. The outlook is grim. Good Kirk is worried. Bad Kirk asks him what he'll do. He'll go through the transporter. Bad Kirk tricks Good Kirk into a fight, after pretending to be compliant. He knocks out Good Kirk and gets away. He finds Yeoman Rand in the hall and says he'll explain everything if he can come to her quarters later. She reluctantly agrees. Bad Kirk is on the bridge. He tells them to leave the planet, but Good Kirk shows up. No one knows which is which. They're dressed the same now, and both have scratches. But Bad Kirk soon gives himself away with an outburst, and Good Kirk talks him down. The bad captain is knocked out and collapses into the Good Kirk's arms. They go to the transporter room and decide they have to risk it. They climb onto the untested, fixed transporter and are beamed away. The wait for them to come back is agonizingly long, and it works to grow the tension needed for this scene to have any punch. Then one figure returns to the transporter pad. He staggers a little bit and then walks confidently off, telling the transporter crew to beam everyone from the planet aboard. The away team returns with some frostbite, but they'll all be okay. On the bridge, Kirk thanks Spock, from both of himself. Yeoman Rand tries to tell Kirk something, but Kirk just thanks her. Captain Kirk then takes his seat in the captain's chair. And that is the end. Here are my thoughts on this episode. Despite my dislike of the assault scene and the fate of the alien dog, the Jekyll and Hyde aspect of this episode does make it memorable and interesting for me. This episode commonly features rather high on surveys that measure the best episodes of the original series, but I'd put it more in the middle. This just isn't really high up there for me, but if it is for you, awesome. I'm not here to judge anybody else's favorites. Geological Tech Fisher, the guy who falls off the rocks and cuts his hand right in the beginning, I love it when little heard of departments come up in an episode. It's so rare that we get a peek into the assignments of other crew members, and this sort of thing really makes me smile. You'll notice that I made my alien dog with a fluffy tip of the tail. It's really hard to tell if the dog's tail in the episode itself has short fur on it, or if it's a flat oval span of leathery skin. Much like the joke about hardly ever getting to see the shoes of Star Trek characters and their costumes, this tail showed up so briefly and at such bad angles that it was difficult to figure out. So I made mine fuzzy. I couldn't find any prop pictures or auction listings if this prop was ever sold to verify whether it was flat and leathery or fuzzy. So I'm going to believe that different individuals of this canine species had different tail tips and just stop stressing about it. This question may never be answered unless we find the actual prop. This canine, this dog, this alien, is actually in world called an Alpha 177 canine, after its home planet. And this same creature has a cameo as a stuffed mounted head on the wall in TOS episode Squires of Gothos, as well as being mentioned and seen in Lower Decks, but everything comes back for Lower Decks. In this episode, The Enemy Within, the dog is reunited with its other half in the transporter, and when it returns to the transporter pad, it's dead. In the first scene we see of it, it's laying on its side unmoving. I'm pretty sure that in this moment, it is the dog actor from earlier playing dead. But when people walk up to it and begin to touch it, I think we're seeing a complete plush prop. Probably the same prop that we later see being wrapped up in sickbay. Another moment where we get a horribly brief glimpse of the tail tip. And it would be this plush prop that was used as a mounted head in that later episode. Did you notice that Uhura is not in this episode? We hear her voice over comms when Good Kirk and Scotty reach his quarters, but this is just one of 2 episodes that she's not in. I adore how this episode offers us a peek into both Kirk and Rand's quarters. It's interesting to see what the prop department has chosen to decorate them with. Rand's quarters, for example, are strewn with art supplies, bringing to light her love of painting, and thus we get a peek of her interests and hobbies. I just love when we get to peek at the inner workings of some of these characters. Rand's mirror, however, is far too small in my opinion. How can you do an updo that towering in a mirror that tiny? However, the stowaway vanity and storage unit are an A+ in my book. Great design. I just adore the thoughtfulness behind it. While we're in her room with her, notice the uniform she has on. It doesn't have, for lack of a better term, what I've been calling the spiral seams. These 3 seams that run from the shoulder to the hip that we see arise in later episodes. These early costumes are simpler, but still have the cute flaps and the asymmetrical collar. This uniform style is drawn nice and clearly in reference illustrations in the book The Star Trek Technical Manual, published in 1975. After the scene where Bad Kirk attacks Rand, then Fisher, there's a scene where Spock is questioning Good Kirk about his unusual behavior in Kirk's quarters. The two of them leave his quarters, walk down the hall, and enter the turbo lift. Then the doors close. In a moment of delightful camp, a bloodied hand is thrust into the scene from the right. Cue the drama sting before Bad Kirk steps into frame. This is so over the top and wonderful. I just love this vintage goofiness. One of the reasons why the original series is my second favorite. Also, where was he hiding that they didn't see him? It's so silly and so fun. Oh gosh, and then when Bad Kirk shoves his bloody knuckles into his mouth, ew, no. This is the second time we are treated to Kirk's wrap tunic, the first being in Charlie X. And in this episode, it still has its gold braid on the shoulders. This will later vanish and be replaced by just a gold cord around the collar. Then this gold cord and a thin black band around the collar will appear in episodes even later on. I'm honestly not a huge fan of the tunic. It strikes me as too casual a look for a captain on duty. It's giving hoodie vibes, but I love that it apparently rubbed someone the wrong way so much that they just couldn't leave the design alone, as if they thought that just one more tweak would make it right. This style of top was probably used in later seasons as Shatner's weight fluctuated, but in this episode, it's clearly used to help us keep track of which is good versus bad Kirk. I'd think Bad Kirk's eyeliner would have been enough of a hint, though. This is also the era of the shoulder zipper on the men's standard uniforms. This zipper went from the point of the shoulder to the top of the collar, which was a weird choice, especially considering that these shoulders have two seams each, one slightly to the front and widened slightly to the back. And for some reason, they decided to put this zipper on the seam closer to the front, which is why wouldn't you, if you had to put a zipper there, put it on the one slightly to the back? You're going to be filming these actors mostly from the front. It's more visible where you decided to put it. It's not really the best look. We know that zippers don't flex and move with fabric. They just don't. When you sit down in jeans, when you hunch over in a sweater, you'll notice that zipper bunches. So any movement of the shoulder would have made that line where that zipper sits look weird. The zipper also leaves a notch in the left side of the collar, which ruins the lines of the collar. And for a uniform that's supposed to look super official, it's just not working. The dent on the line of the shoulder that the zipper creates as it sits heavier than the seam is also a weird visual. I understand, of course, hiding a zipper in a seam, but why that one? In my opinion, because you mostly film the actors from the front. A tiny zipper at the back and the neck would have been a much better choice. Or a knit stretch fabric for the black collar, and making the velour collar just big enough to squeeze the head through so you don't need a zipper there at all would have been a better option. Thankfully, this whole zipper thing doesn't actually last that long. We also get to see Spock and Kirk wearing their hip holsters. In my mind, these holsters were magnetic, right? When we see the pair in engineering, however, there's a very distinct Velcro sound as Kirk removes his phaser from his belt. And again, in sickbay, when good Kirk goes to take bad Kirk to the transporter room. So I suppose I'm wrong. It's awfully silly to think of the side of a phaser having a patch of Velcro on it, because it would have to in order for the belt and the phaser to stick together. Maybe later it does have a magnet. I don't know. If I were to make this prop, I would make it magnetic. I would definitely not use Velcro. Even the sound of the Velcro is so now. It's so unfuturistic. And Velcro is old enough at this time, the making of this show, that it was a well-known sound. It wouldn't seem like something space age to hear Velcro. We get to see the engineering deck. We get to see the control panels and areas of this room from different angles. Again, the light work here is great. There's a scene when Good Kirk and Bad Kirk are facing each other. Bad Kirk is aiming his phaser at Good. The dramatic lighting on that hand brandishing the weapon is perfect. All that work for a second-long moment. This episode featured the very first ever use of the Vulcan neck pinch. The script called for Spock to hit evil Kirk on the head with the butt of his phaser. And Nimoy, thinking that that would be unlike Spock, decided that Spock should instead have some sort of less violent maneuver he could pull on a bad guy. At first, if my memory serves correctly, the production crew didn't really like the change, but after Shatner and Nimoy cooperated to demonstrate how the neck pinch would work, they were won over. And that's how the Vulcan neck pinch was born. My biggest problem, and this has to do with Spock, unfortunately, with this episode, even more than the attack on Rand itself, which Rand won in my opinion. She fought hard and she scared him off, was Spock joking to Rand at the end of this episode that she may have found Bad Kirk hot or attractive in some way. This is like immensely disrespectful after what she went through. My Vulcan bro, not good at human conversation? Same. I feel ya. But you could have just kept your mouth shut. I do not like it. I'm not sure why the writer, Rich Matheson, would have included it. Maybe it was a way to lighten the mood, as if to say, it's okay, audience. She may have liked being manhandled by a half version of the guy she has a crush on. I don't care if it was an of its time thing to say, or that it's fine because she may have been subconsciously asking for it. It's just really gross. It doesn't matter if I'm totally in love with somebody. If they attack me, that's not hot. No amount of love for someone makes that okay. It's also strange that Spock would joke at all. But this was early Spock. They were still feeling the character out. We were also, I suppose, warned by an earlier line that Spock says in this very episode, which is, if I seem insensitive to what you're going through, Captain, understand it's the way I am. All right, bro. That's why I said you could have just kept your mouth shut, though. And it feels really, really weird to say that about probably my favorite character. Second favorite? I really love the Romulan commander. This whole bit here, this whole portion that I just explained, is also one of the reasons why I find it strange that this episode ranks highly on lists of episodes to show to your children as like a first voyage into Trek. I don't agree. The violence, the death of the dog, the oh, you probably liked him anyway from Spock at the end. No. Like, I remember watching this distinctly as a child and being really uncomfortable. You know, you're probably in the same boat as me. You started watching this very young, and I'd be curious about your opinions. If you were a kid when you first saw this, what did you think? Do you remember what you thought? Were you as put off as I was? Finally, there is an apparent mistake in this episode. Later in the episode, when Kirk confronts Kirk on the bridge, the scratches on the left side of Bad Kirk's face seem to jump to the right. However, I do believe that the mistake was not with the makeup artist. I believe it was with the angle of filming. If you pay attention to the direction to which Shatner's hair is combed, you'll see that it is combed away from the side that's scratched. For most of this episode, it is combed in that same direction. In this scene that begins on the bridge, Bad Kirk jumps up from his chair and turns to the left to face the doors that have just opened from the turbo lift. So that when Kirk and Spock exit the turbo lift, you are looking at their, mostly, left sides as they look down the elevated platform toward the captain's chair. So you are seeing the side with Good Kirk's scratches on it. In the footage of Bad Kirk looking up at them, you're looking mostly, because you're where the view screen of the bridge is, you're looking at Bad Kirk's right side. When the close-up happens, and you see him all sweaty, and you see that the marks have changed sides, now they're on his right side, Bad Kirk's right, you'll notice that his hair has also been combed the other way too. It's combed away from the scratches, so now from right to left. Which means Good Kirk and Bad Kirk were both filmed from the same side. So later in post-production, when somebody was splicing this scene together, they must have realized they are both facing the same way. Now it looks like they're not yelling at each other. Can't fix Good Kirk by flipping him, because it won't make sense that he's suddenly on the other side of the bridge. The turbo lift door is from our viewpoint on the right. Bad Kirk is already supposed to be on the left. So the only thing to do is to flip the image of Bad Kirk. So now we are seeing his left side as his right. But in the context of the scene of them yelling at each other, now it looks like they're facing each other. So it's not that the makeup artist screwed up. It's that the film crew that day didn't remind Shatner, hey, you're filming from the other side now. You're the other character. Turn around. And it was too late by the day that they were splicing together that scene to do reshoots. I feel like I need to draw a chart. But I'm sure if you think about it, it makes sense. They probably hoped that we just wouldn't notice or that we would be forgiving. And my tendency is to be forgiving. And I don't think that subtracts from the quality of this episode at all. In fact, I find it fun to kind of suss out and investigate these little quirks. All in all, I very much enjoy this episode. It's not the worst episode. It's not the best. I still have a good time watching it. I'm just a little torn about some certain moments, that's all. However, let's get ready for the reveal of this finished puppet project. Thank you everyone for watching. This has been a fabulous time. It actually took me quite a while to finish this guy. I only really got to work on it a little bit at a time over like 3 weeks. But I just love the way he came out. He's so freaking cute. So painted on cheese. Oh, so cute. This is definitely something I would bring to an event. I think that interactive props are the best, and especially if they seem to have their own personality. Why is this so pleasing? I feel like this is something I'm gonna have to like leave on my bed now, and my boyfriend will be just atrociously annoyed by it constantly. Look how cute! Ah, man. Anyway, I really hope you guys try this one. I don't know why I found it so delightful. Yeah, if you try this one, please tell me. I would love to know how your version comes out, or what kind of tricks you found to make the process easier, or what. I've never I've made a few plushies in the past. I used to be a store display artist, and a lot of our window displays would require like lifelike animals. So it's not like I was coming into making a realistic plush animal from nothing, but I was making like skunks and raccoons and birds and things. I'd never done, I don't know, a domestic dog, and the face pan, is that what you call it? The cranium shape of a flat-faced domestic dog is much different than that of a fox. And getting this forehead dent, it's kind of tough because you gotta anchor it all to the back. I want to make reupholstery references. If you've had to tuft, you know, plush chairs and make those dents and those folds to get it to have that depth, it's kind of similar, making that forehead and getting the eyes to look a little sunken in. Not that that makes any sense to anybody who hasn't made tufted furniture, but it's fine. Whatever. Terminology is unimportant. It's the creativity that matters, right? I don't know the words for it, but look what I did. I just think it's so cute. I just love this guy. He already needs a brushing. Oh, gracious. I have a comb. But yes, thank you for joining me once again. But thank you for joining me yet again for our creative little endeavors in my Star Trek themed basement. I'd be doing this alone if not for you. But thank you so much for joining me. It means the world to me. Live long and prosper. Kapla, and